Now, one of your central promises in your campaign is to take the country out of the European Convention on Human Rights, which is a big legal framework. The UK has been part of it for decades. And it's important because when it comes to Northern Ireland and the Good Friday Belfast Agreement, it's in that text as being something that is absolutely vital.
Here's Robert Jenrick, who's looking to stir up more hate and division by pushing for Britain to be taken out of the ECHR. As if Northern Ireland hasn't had enough trouble with Brexit and borders, now dipsticks like Jenrick want to impose more problems. We'll get to actor Brian Cox's thoughts on Jenrick's woeful proposals on how to deal with Northern Ireland if ever we did decide to leave the ECHR.
Ian Cork wants to know, can you explain what leaving the ECHR would do in terms of the direct impact on the Good Friday Agreement?
Well, if I can just step back and say, why do we need to leave the ECHR?
Well, we talked about that last time you were on the programme.
Well, it's important just for
this is the specific question.
Just to know. I don't approach this from an ideological perspective.
Really?
I approach it from a practical one. What I saw at the Home Office was a British state unable to do its most basic duty, secure our borders, keep the public safe. I wouldn't do this lightly. It's not reformable. There's 46 member states from Andorra to Iceland to Turkey.
And we've talked to you about
You'll never
this
get
before,
unanimity.
But there's a specific
what we need to do is ensure
Ireland.
that there isn't a knock-on consequence in Northern Ireland.
So how would you do that?
The Good Friday Agreement is not reliant upon the ECHR.
It's a fundamental part of it.
Well, it envisages a Northern Irish Bill of Rights, which would protect the citizens of Northern Ireland domestically according to the ECHR. And that's what I propose.
Well, let's see what our panel have to say about the Tory race that is underway.
OK, here's Brian Cox, who not only has a brilliant way of summing up Jenrick, but also a refreshing take on immigration.
And Brian, I know you're never going to be someone, I think, who sits there and says, I'm going to wholeheartedly back the Conservatives. But if you were making a movie of where the Tory party is now, what would you call it? Or a drama? How would you describe it?
Incredulity. They're incredulous. They are ridiculous. That was ridiculous. Completely ridiculous. I thought, I couldn't understand. I thought, what is this man doing? Who is he? We have an expression in Scotland, which is, his head is full of mince. Do you know what that means?
I know what that means, but explain it to our viewers, because they don't all have the same Scottish lexicon as you and me.
Well, it means that he just doesn't know. I mean, the whole thing about Northern Ireland is just ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous. Well, you know, when you think of the Good Friday Agreement and the care and what went into that, you know, it's absolutely nonsense. A man, you know, if they get him as leader, they're welcome to him.
And yet lots of our viewers are really worried about what's happening in terms of immigration in this country, and lots of Conservatives do think
immigration in this country is a problem. There's no question about it. But you're not going to solve it that way. The problem with immigration is what's been happening in the Middle East, what's happening in the Middle East right now. Can you imagine the amount of immigrants we're going to see even more? It's a world problem. It's not just a British problem, it's a world problem.
Click here to ask what you would do if faced with the political trolley problem.